Greetings, fans. Brian Moses here, founder of Real Estate Training Breakthroughs, customized coaching and seminars. And man, are you in for a treat. I have been dying to get this schedule lined up so that I could connect with our guest today. You are in for a treat. I'm so excited. Nick McLean. He's a former wildland firefighter, ice road trucker, Boeing 747 crew member, current competitive cross-country mountain bike racer. He just recently completed in a race, did incredibly well. He's going to Oregon next week to do another race, and he's trying to make the cut for the Nationals in July, which is exciting. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And amongst all of that, he's turned real estate firm owner. Nick McLean formed Nick McLean Real Estate in 2012, about 9 years ago, in Wenatchee, Washington, serving a population of about little less than 100,000 people. So think about that, 100,000 people in his market, probably smaller than your market. His team sells over 500 homes a year, posting 200 million in sales volume last year. And he's the creator of the Squadron Team model. We'll talk a little bit about that. Nick McLean, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Oh, dude, you are just an inspiration in the real estate industry, one of the premier agents and team leaders in North America. You do an amazing job. Nick reached out to me about 18 months. We go way back, but he reached out to me about 18 months ago to do some specific coaching and training for his team. So for the last year and a half, I've had the privilege to work with him, learn from him. He's an innovator. He's a thought leader, and he's an inspiration to everybody. So I'm super, super excited to have you. Thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hey, Nick, my first question, and I got a bunch of them written down here. And some of these I didn't even know. A Boeing 747 crew member. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, and then an ab initio program, which basically means from the beginning. So taking somebody with zero experience and within a year and a half getting them a commercial airline license, but not just that, jet experience. Because what happened in September 11th, right? There was a terrorist attack, of course, but Saudi Arabia had a flight simulator purchased from Boeing. It was like a $20 million simulator. Okay.
Wow.
Well, the government wouldn't allow them to sell that simulator. So this college bought it from Boeing for cheap, for like $1 million. So I trained on this level. It's called a level D simulator. The highest simulator you can get to train on, I trained on for a year. And it allowed me to get the experience so early on in my career that I got a job at a 747 airline, flying freight around the world.
Wow.
I guess why that's important, why I'm bringing that up, is because I love the thought that you can take someone from nothing, from the very beginning, and make them elite. Like I was. So they took me, I didn't know anything, and I became an airline pilot in a year and a half.
Wow.
So I think real estate agents the same way. It's like if you have the right onboarding, you have the right processes in place, you can make anyone great because they have greatness in them. You just need to be able to take the people with aptitude and an attitude and allow them to grow. And that's why we've hired you over the last year and a half, because you have to invest in these people to have them grow to that 747 level like I did. So yeah, I was on a 747 for about 3 years, flying freight, boxes across the country or across the world, really.
That's incredible. Oh, I didn't know that story.
You didn't know that, but I flew like asparagus from Peru to Miami, and I flew a Bugatti from Dubai to Paris, and printers from Singapore to Luxembourg. Wild stuff, really.
So did you go right? forgive me if this is a dumb question, but did you go right from the simulator to the runway, the tarmac, hopping in a 747?
Yeah. You don't know this about airline pilots, but the first time they fly passengers, you know what I mean? Like, you don't train with passengers. You don't train on the real thing. You train in a simulator. Yeah, absolutely. I went from a simulator to a 747.
You never flew a Cessna or a Piper?
Oh, yeah, I did that. I did the Cessna thing, and then I went to a simulator.
Okay, wow.
But simulation is something that's very, if you look at Daniel Coyle wrote a book called the Talent Code. He also wrote a book called The Culture Code. And this just popped in my brain, if you're okay with this, Brian.
Totally.
Culture Code and Talent Code. And so in that book, it goes over how you can learn quicker, faster, better, stronger, right? How the brain actually works to develop skills and talent. And what it is these neurological pathways get wrapped with what's called myelin. And I think you're familiar with this, right, Brian? Myelin. But in order to do that, right, you have to be at the edge of what's possible or what you're capable of. And that's what simulation does. You can take yourself to a spot where you're going to fail and fail and fail, but not die, not be able to get back up, right? And by getting that repetition at that failure point, but in a safe environment, right? And in real estate, the environment is one in which it's not life or death, but it's ego life or death. It's, can I fail in front of my peers and they support me for it? There's no judgment, there's no ridicule, there's no shame. And so if you take those two books, Talent Code and Culture Code, and have a culture that's okay with failure and not judgment, that actually despises judgment and shame, then you can get a group of people together in real estate and practice stuff that a lot of agents avoid practicing for ego problems, right? For rejection problems. And so, these are little secrets to like getting an agent to go from 0 to, they say, 30 homes a year.
That's awesome. Wow, what great metaphorical advice and wisdom. If you're just tuning in, hammer the like button if you're getting great value out of this. We're with Nick McLean from Wenatchee, Washington. 500 sales with his team last year, 200 million in volume. Man, talk about training, Nick. So I had a bunch of other questions. We'll come back to those. But since you're talking about 747s and Boeing aircrafts and learning how to fly one of those monstrosities of a beast in the sky in less than a year and a half from simulation and training, how does that apply to your culture and your team? How frequently are you training your team? Give us a behind the scenes peek, if you will.
Yeah, so our training rhythm is we go Monday through Thursday, 9 to 9:30 or 9:45. And each day is a little bit different. So Mondays are focused on buyer specialist, buyer training, buyer the here and now, the current events, right? The process. Tuesdays, the global team meeting. So kind of that boring team meeting that every agency has that we all despise, new listings, regulations, that's on Tuesday, but that's a kind of a global thing where we need to talk about what's happening in our company as well, the vision of the company. So instead of making it boring, we make it about the vision, about how we're going to grow and maybe brainstorm. Wednesday will be listings and sellers. And Thursday will be general, like role play, practicing, things like that. Or even like if you think about like a Harvard professor, they'll have a professor hours. So you can come ask me anything, like an AMA, where I'm available to the entire team. Because I'm not just the team leader, but I'm the broker owner. So they might have questions about contracts, kind of that type of thing.
Wow, that's incredible. So at 500 sales a year, you still do training Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursday, yeah.
Wow.
And, it seems like a lot, but over time it's not. And I believe that there's two types of there's not two types of experience, but there's recency of experience is just as valuable as total experience. Mm-hmm. So how experienced are you if you're going off of knowledge that's 20 years old, right, in the real estate world? Well, they change contracts all the time, right? People use Zillow now, right? They use Trulia now, and you might fight it, but you got to be able to adapt to it. So we train quite a bit. It sounds like overkill. It's really not. It's really not, because what we do is we spice it up, right? So we'll have Brian Moses in on every 2 times a month, and we'll bring in special guests and speakers. And yesterday we had an appraiser on. Appraiser came in and zoomed in, right? So that's where we go with that. So you got to have a pulse on where your team's at. But it's a huge lever. So there's death by meeting, but there also is a thought that meetings can be a massive lever for leadership. It's your time to get a message across to everyone in your company, right? And for them to take something and take action on it. So I take that very seriously. So, if the meeting's at 9, I'm up at 5 or 6 preparing for it every day. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you know if the results of your efforts are effective? What metrics or measurements do you use to see if we're staying stagnant, we're growing incrementally, or we're growing exponentially?
Oh, what, just in terms of overall metrics? Well, I don't know, you might have to ask me some deeper questions on that, but I look at our transaction coordinator reports to me daily pending sales, new pendings, pending sales, closed sales.
Okay.
Fall throughs. So I get end of day reports. So I don't know if anyone's interested in this at this level, but I get end of day reports, EODs, from my all my transaction coordinator, my listing coordinators. So what listings went live and are going to go live in the future. Mm-hmm. So I can figure out some cash flow there. And then at the closing coordinators, the fall throughs, the pendings, the solds, and the news. And then I get my ISA's report, calls, contacts, appointments, time on phone. That's a new metric I look at. I look at my ISA's, how many minutes on the phone. And then I have them judge how many minutes were quality minutes. And so I get that every day, end of day reports. So
that's interesting. Here's a guy who's hitting it out of the park, one of the most successful agents in North America. I'm learning that you train consistently. You measure, you have certain key performance indicators that you're measuring that you just shared about. You talked about in the background that your team sent over to me, you talked about, or they shared with me that you're the creator of the Squadron Team model. That piqued my interest. I think, Squadron makes me think of military. It makes me think of Air Force. Talk about what the Squadron Team model is and how you've applied it to real estate, and what exactly is it that you created?
Yeah, so it's basically a framework, an organizational structure that I didn't create, right? I just looked at the Air Force and said, okay, how do they structure their aircraft and leadership? And it's almost, because what happened, Brian, is when I started my real estate team in 2012, I had 3 agents. They all reported to me, direct reports, right? Buyer specialists, usually your first couple hires are buyer specialists and an assistant, let's say. Right. And then you get 5 buyer specialists, and then you get 7, and then 10, and then maybe you bring on a listing partner, and then you grow it even bigger. Well, at some point, your name becomes "Got a Minute," right?
Yeah, so true,
right? You become, and I prided myself in knowing everything, right? So I got a lot of satisfaction and meaning out of being a know-it-all. But for me to scale and grow the company from 200 sales, 300 sales to 500, and looking forward 1,000, 2,000, I needed to layer in leadership, and it was the structure problem, right? And so what I did was I broke it up in squadrons. Here's how it works: every 5 agents are teamed up within a team. We call it a squadron. So you have a mixture of listing partners and buyer specialists. Each squadron has a lead person. So if Susie, buyer specialist, has a question, she must ask someone in the squad first.
Got it.
She can then ask the squadron leader, right, the question. If they can't answer it, they come to me.
Okay, so if I'm tracking with you, this is brilliant. You have essentially created organizations within your organizations of squadron leaders, or maybe in real estate, we might think of sales managers, but a squadron leader to support a group of 5 agents that are on your team.
Yeah, so you can even take it back to my wildland firefighter days. So I was on a 20-person crew. So it was an initial attack 20-person crew, so 20 firefighters. We were broken up into 4 5-person squads. Each squad had a squad boss, right? So before, you would drive to the fire, and then the 4 squad bosses would go to the leader and report, and they would talk. And then those 4 people would go back and disseminate to the other agents or to the squad boss. That's the structure, right?
Wow, incredible.
So it's almost like a chain of event. It's a chain of command. It's a communication structure. It also allows your team members to ask other people other than you. And that gives them an opportunity to teach it is to know it. And so I was being really selfish by answering all the questions, right? I was learning everything.
Wow. Can you repeat that?
I was being really selfish by answering all the questions because I was the one stealing all the knowledge from everyone else. And so I needed to get the knowledge, the overall collective genius of the company. I needed to raise the collective genius of the company. Well, how did I do that? I needed other people to teach within, right?
To teach it is to know it.
To teach it is to know it. And so that's what it does in an organization is, it's like, ask somebody on the team. I trust that they have it. And I trust that if they don't know it, they're going to go to me, right? Or to somebody else.
I love that. I've never heard it said that way. To teach it is to know it. Somebody once shared with me that you don't truly understand something, a topic or curriculum, unless you're able to teach it to someone else so that they can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people think they know it and they teach it to someone else, and the person they taught it to is like, huh? What? So to teach it is to know it. That's brilliant. Brilliant. All right. So we kind of started with the finish line where you are today. You have massive ambitious goals to go from 500 even beyond 1,000. Maybe you mentioned 2,000 transactions in the future. Let's bring it backwards from 500 to 300 to 200, all the way back to 2012, when you decided to get before you opened your company, your brokerage. How did you go from crew member of a 747 into real estate? What prompted you to go, I'm going to get into real estate? Tell me about those early days and the progression beyond that.
Sure. So I was flying a 747 and I got furloughed. They call it's a layoff. It's a nice way of saying you've been laid off. I was laid off because we weren't making enough money. And I was laid off 3 times in 3 years. And I needed something to fall back on. So I decided to get my real estate license. So that's what happened. I got my real estate license in Bangkok, of all places. I got sick on the plane, and I had a layover in Bangkok, and I was there for 11 days. So I signed up for online real estate trading, and my sore throat became a eye infection, so I could barely see. And I remember it became an ear infection. I could barely hear, but I could still push the button on the computer. And I got my 90 hours done. And when I flew home, I went and took the test. And the final furlough was the nail in the coffin. The airline went under. They weren't making money. They were poorly managed. They were just hemorrhaging money. So I learned a lot about, startups, and I learned a lot about, you got to make money. But I got a real estate license in 2008. Obviously, the market crashed in 2008. I sold 1 home my first year. I had $300 left to my name. I was driving a 1984 Subaru GL that I bought for $100, a spray painted green. spray painted. The window wouldn't roll down and the heat wouldn't turn off. It was great in the wintertime, but in the summertime, you were sweating bullets. So, and then in 2009, I got into the REO business, bank-owned business, because of foreclosures, and I sold 12 homes, and then I parlayed that into 32 homes. Got into direct response marketing, and it's probably how I found out about Brian Moses and things like that. I got into marketing, lead generating, building websites, went digital, went all in on direct response. So Dan Kennedy stuff, to the Proctor days, to all of that, and was very successful at generating business that outside of my sphere, because I didn't know anybody, and then I had a great year, worked crazy hours, we've all been there, 10, 11-hour days, sold 60 homes that year, but I didn't take you went to bed with your laptop and you got up with your laptop, and it was just one of those things. And I was like, there has to be a better way. I have to be able to get leverage on myself. I have to have some support, because it's good money and the profit margins are good. When you're solo like that, the profit margins are great. But man, you're giving up a lot of time with your spouse, time with your family, time away from friends. I was losing friendships. I wasn't losing them. They were just not, I wasn't building them. I wasn't nurturing them at all. Mm-hmm. For what, another deal? So I started a real estate team in 2012 in Wenatchee. It was a brand new MLS. I had never been in it. It was a new marketplace. Nobody knew me. And we sold 101 homes that year. I recruited 2 buyer specialists. So I had 2 buyer specialists, myself and an assistant. And we did 101 homes. I don't know if you have any questions on that, Brian. But
yeah, that's fantastic. Lots going through my head here, but what an incredible journey, and I appreciate you laying it out. So your first year, one sale.
Yeah.
Then you managed to get into direct response. You get it up to 60. You sacrificed your life. You said this isn't worth it. You built a team in 2012 in a new market, 101 sales. Here's my question for the people listening. Most agents think, how people need to know me. So they're spending their life promoting themselves in a marketplace, and they're not doing 101 sales. So talk about promotion versus direct response, if you will, and maybe give advice to the people out there trying to create a brand and not really getting much results from it.
Now, there is value to building a brand, and there's many, many books written on brand, and that's the only thing you have. But it's a very expensive marketing. Brand awareness, top of mind awareness, very expensive. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Sony, right? They have brand awareness. But if you look at their marketing budget, it's massive. You're actually competing with the consumer for the same amount of attention, right? I mean, you're competing with Facebook right now. You're trying to get people's attention. So you have to be able to grab their attention. And your name's not enough to grab their attention. Buyers want homes. Sellers want the most money, right? It's not about you. It's not about you. And so I don't know if this is good advice, Brian, but I felt good about that. For some reason, I liked that. I liked that I didn't have to promote myself. It wasn't about my personality. It wasn't about where I came from. It wasn't about my degrees. It wasn't about that. It was about them and only them. And if I can create a headline, a marketing plan, a system that is all about their results, all about their experience, and I'm just talking to them, it was so much easier to me. It was almost like a light bulb went off. It was like, oh, it's like the most popular radio station in America, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And you just drill, what's in it for me? What's in it for them? What's in it for them? What's in it for them? Just drill it nonstop. That's why I went. Buyers want homes, not you. And so I just offered them what they wanted, always. So when I went into Wenatchee, the marketplace, a quick story, I had no listings. So I had nothing to market. And I opened my own company and I had no agents. So I went to a competitor. I went to a competitive firm, and this is in 2012 where listings were sitting on the market for 180 days. And I asked them if it was okay if I marketed their listings for free. They allowed it. So I got access to 30 listings that I could market on my own. So I did Craigslist ads, Zillow ads, Trulia ads. So I found agents that weren't marketing. By the way, there's a lot of them that don't market. And I offered them free marketing. And I gave them a couple leads here and there. But I had hundreds of ads within 2 weeks of opening my office in Wenatchee. Until their owner found out I did it, and their owner told them to stop letting me do that. So then I had to go get my own listings.
Amazing.
So yeah. You don't need. So the other concept is other people's time, other people's money, other people's resources, other people's influence, right? And so that was the concept. It was like, well, I don't have listings. Well, other people have listings. Okay, great. That's what buyers want. And at that time, people wanted high quality buyers. You didn't want listings. You wanted buyers.
Right.
Now everyone wants listings, no buyers. So there's opportunities on both sides. We could talk about that. But that's how I got my start.
That's fantastic. So for example, in today's world, without even borrowing someone else's listings, you could do free list of Wenatchee homes because you have access to the MLS and you have access to all the properties. So let the world know that you have a list of Wenatchee homes or Raleigh, Durham homes or Miami, Florida homes.
Yes. You know what? So I actually listed above. I got a bunch of listings and nobody wanted them. Right? They were overpriced. They were in bad locations. Everything. Right? So what I would do on every one of my ads is at the top I would say, I have other great deals, or get a free list of foreclosures, get a free list of waterfront homes, whatever buyer I wanted, I gave them the bait, right? And then it was a link to my website, custom search, because the ad, nobody wanted my listing. It was terrible, but I was trying to give them what they wanted. So little mousetraps, little baits, Well,
we're doing one right now that I'll share with you. We don't really do a lot of training on marketing. I work with your team on the buyer and seller side, which is great. You've got an amazing organization. They're hardworking. They're humble. They want to improve. If we have time, maybe we can talk about what you look for in an agent, and how you set all that up. But you can go into your MLS. There are a lot of agents listening that are newer or new in the business. And they're like, I want to penetrate a market, but Nick McLean's in that market and he's owning that market and I can't get in there. And everybody knows me. Anyone knows me. I hate the word. But what they can do, and what we all should focus on, is what we can do, not what we can't do. But you can go into the MLS and you can pull out all the sales in the last 6 months and do some market research and go, look at all these homes that have sold in Wenatchee. This one was sold by Coldwell Banker. This one was sold by Century 21. This one was sold by Keller Williams. And you write the address down, you write the list price down, you write the sales price down, and then you write the amount over asking price that it sold for, because properties are selling for over asking price. So out of a few hundred sales in a 6-month window, pick 12 to 24 that were really ridiculously, oh my God, it sold for $50,000 over asking price, sold for $40,000 over asking price. List those addresses, the list price, the sales price, and the amount over asking price. And your headline can be, Nick McLean thought you'd like to know about these recent sales in your area. If you're thinking about selling, you can sell your home for over your asking price. Name your asking price, call Nick. So there's a message to use other people. I love what you said, Nick. Other people's influence, other people's data, other people's information, other people's listings to leverage yourself. Another brilliant concept and strategic thinking thought process from you.
Yeah, because here's what they do. When an agent sells a home, what do? They celebrate. They get their commission check and move on. But they don't double down, triple down on the neighborhood. They just got a sale in the neighborhood. And so you can use the same data. It's public record. There's nothing wrong with it. And let everyone know in the neighborhood that a home just sold in their neighborhood. It doesn't matter it wasn't you.
Yeah, not even a home. That's what everybody that does it, right? So what 12 or 24 homes in their neighborhood have sold for?
Yeah, yeah. So you don't need, if you don't even need to buy leads, right? You just need to think critically. And there's so many strategies and tactics, and a lot, I've learned most of them from you, Brian. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Nick, how old were you that year that you sold your first house? That when you were furloughed and got into the real estate business, got your license in Bangkok. How old were you?
I was 27.
Okay, so here's my next question. Today, Nick McLean, broker owner, successful agent, team leader, squadron leader, strategist, forethought thinker, futuristic, big visionary. The Nick McLean today, if you could transport back and give your 27-year-old self advice new to the business, what one or two things would you tell yourself now, knowing what you know?
I would, I don't know if this would accelerate it, but I would definitely tell myself that you're going to need help. You're going to need a coach and a mentor, and to know that investment is worth it. You're going to be scared at the price, but you're going to do it. And there's huge ROI. And it's not a plug to Brian or any coaches out there, but that's something that popped in my mind, is you can compress time by learning from other people. And that person may not be in your marketplace. It might be better to go outside your marketplace and find out what's working in other marketplaces and bring it back to yours. That's the boon. That's the gold. That's the secret. Because what I did early on is I just looked around, what was everyone doing in my marketplace? And I just copied them or try to improve upon them. But that's incremental thought. It's not geometric. It's not exponential. And I think, Brian, you know what I'm talking about, right? If I'm just barely doing better than my other agents or just doing what other people are doing, it's incremental growth. To grow exponentially, you got to get ideas and thoughts from other people outside of the area. And a lot of times it's outside your industry too. So studying other industries.
Very good.
Very important too. And so that's something I would tell myself. And also invest in, the biggest ROI is personal development. I believe that one of the biggest ROI is personal development and leadership skills. For me, it was speaking skills, which I'm still working on, but articulation skills, communication skills, human behavior. I started getting really into human behavior psychology probably 7 years in. I wish I would have started earlier.
What do you mean by that, Nick?
Well, we're all human beings, and that's a constant. And we all have similar blind spots. We all have similar biases. We all have similar, if not the same, feelings and emotions. And this is something you need to tap into and understand at the highest level, because those are your clients, right? So instead of thinking about the widgets, you're thinking about the person and their feelings and their emotions and what they're actually going through. And for me, that's more of a fundamental principle, that if I understand that I'm going to feel good no matter what industry I'm in. And as a leader, that's kind of an empathetic way of thinking about it. I hope that makes sense. Plus, I just love it. I love it. I love learning about the brain, cognitive abilities, how we learn. I love all that. I mean, I ride my bike, I cycle, I race mountain bikes. So I ride probably 10 to 12 hours a week. And so I listen to podcasts, and I'm the number one. I'm always listening to like Farnham Project or the Knowledge Project or Jim Quick Brain, Daniel Huberman podcast, Huberman Labs, things like that. I just really enjoy that.
That's great. I always find it fascinating and interesting to find out the paths that people have traveled to get to the top of the mountain. So on behalf of myself, all of our listeners, I want to be respectful of your time. I'm so grateful to have you on our broadcast here today. You dropped all kinds of gold and great value. Thank you for making the people around you better, for being a friend and a mentor to so many others. Good luck as you pursue your dream of competing in nationals. We're cheering you on from the sidelines.
Appreciate it, Brian. Appreciate you. Thanks for the opportunity. And thanks for everything you contributed to our team over the years and to myself personally. Yeah, and can't wait for our next call.
That's awesome. I appreciate you, Nick. Thanks, everybody. If you have any comments or questions, Nick, how do they get a hold of you if anybody wants to reach out?
Yeah. In fact, I'm an open book. I love seeing people's success and or succeed. So nick@nickmclean.com. That's my email if you want to email me. Find me on Facebook. Yeah, I'm there for you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Nick. Have a great day, everybody.
See you later.